media days.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a minute. I just want to run something real quick. So I was talking about. I was saying earlier, I wanted Jimmy Garoppolo for the Dolphins. So I heard something about the Dolphins this week that I just, wanted to kind of throw out there because I've been kind of thinking about what their season's going to look like. And so I'm listening to the GM Shuffle podcast with Mike Lombardi. Mike Lombardi, former general manager of the Raiders. He worked for the Patriots. He's worked for the Cleveland Browns. So knows the NFL inside and out. So Tyreek Hill on one of the many podcasts. He seems like he's on a podcast every day.
Yeah.
Talking up how great, how good the Dolphins are going to be and that their offense is going to be really similar to Kansas City's, which made any Dolphins fan, you should be laughing.
Okay, wait a minute. All right. Kansas City's offense is basically run by Andy Reid. And what do we know about Andy Reid? We've been watching him coach for over 20 years. If there's a choice between running and passing, what is he going to do?
Throw.
He's going to throw the ball. Okay. If we've noticed anything about the San Francisco 49ers system that Mike McDaniel's coming from, what do they like to do? First, run the ball.
Run the ball.
So the idea that just on its face, the idea that their offense is going to be like Kansas City's is ridiculous.
Right. Yeah.
Not even getting to the fact that Tua is nowhere near the quarterback that Mahomes is.
Yeah. So, listen, I get it. Tyreek Hill's trying to talk them up, give them some smoke. I'm good with that. That's fine. I don't believe any of it, but it's fine. Yeah. So they were talking about, they asked Mike Lombardi, what do you think about it? And he basically enumerated all of the things that the Dolphins are counting on that could easily fall apart.
Okay.
He's like, it doesn't have anything to do with Tyreek Hill. It's basically your quarterback, right? And is Tua anywhere near Mahomes? Obviously not. And he's like, you know why? He's like, so they have basically, he was like, they have some questions to answer. And he's like, you know why they don't throw the ball down the field more? Because they can't. It's not real complicated because it's not his strength. It's not what Tua does. He's not a great throw the ball down the field guy. He doesn't have a really strong arm. You see in bad weather, he has a hard time even holding onto the ball. So, he's basically like, look, this is a problem. And it just kind of enumerated to me how much of a house of cards the Dolphins have, right? Because there's going to be all this excitement because of they bringing in Tyreek Hill and we got a new coach and there's all this newfound, oh, geez, we're going to be great and blah, blah, blah. But their problem is like, if anything happens with the offensive line, like if Armstead that they just signed, the left tackle they just signed, who, by the way, has been getting injured the past 3 years. That's why the Saints couldn't keep him because he kept getting injured.
It's not like they remade their entire offensive line.
No, but that's what I mean.
And they signed somebody else, I think.
Right, they signed Collins.
But also, Tua's left-handed, so getting a left tackle, I feel like you need a right tackle more than you need a left tackle because of his blind side, but whatever.
Right, but the point is, the whole point of this is, the Dolphins are going to come in, they're going to run the ball to try to hide their quarterback. Right, yep. To get them in favorable situations, which is, by the way, that's good coaching. That's what they should do.
That's what they should do.
So, but the problem is, like, if Teron Armstead gets hurt and can't play, the whole offensive line could fall apart. Like, that's kind of like we've basically put a bunch of Band-Aids on this team to try to see if we're going to fix it, and it could easily not work. If you lose one of those offensive linemen and you can't run the ball, you're in trouble. And the guy Collins that they got to play guard, they're playing, like, from what they were saying on this podcast, they're playing him at center. Like, they don't even think he can play guard. So then you've got, Liam Eichenberg, he's going to be in his second year now, going to play right tackle. Like, if anything goes wrong with their offensive line, the whole thing falls apart because then they can't run the ball. And if they can't run the ball, they can't throw the ball. Yeah. So you've staked, and then you got Tyreek Hill on offense. Well, great. But if this doesn't work, you can't get the ball to him anyway. Yeah. So
we could go on and on and on about all the problems with the Dolphins. I could easily fall apart. And then the thing you got to remember is, look, Tua is not a big dude. Okay. And also, if they keep running RPO stuff, which, look, Tua's good at RPO stuff, but some of that's dangerous because what ends up happening is you have to hold the ball and get the defense to react. So often he's getting the ball. If he holds onto the ball because he's going to throw it, then he's waiting for a defender to come up, and then he throws it, and then he gets popped. And if he gets hit he's not a big dude. If he gets hit the wrong way, then it's like, okay, well, fine, your quarterback's Teddy Bridgewater, but Teddy Bridgewater is not much of a thrower either. And by the way, the Denver Broncos. Part of the reason people are excited about them this year is because they've already got all this talent. They just need a quarterback. They got Russell Wilson, right? Well, Teddy Bridgewater was there last year, and their offense was not good. So if you're telling me, well, we're going to have a limited quarterback and he's going to have all this talent on offense and it's going to cause our offense to be amazing, okay, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, and they were doing this thing on the GM Shuffle podcast about, they go through who are the blue chip players, like who are your guys that are your cornerstones of your franchise going forward, guys that you're really going to. So the Dolphins have Xavier Howard on defense, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill on offense. Those are their blue chip players, really. Maybe somebody will come up, whatever. But it's like, okay, so we've been through all of this, right? They're like, oh, we're poised to make the playoffs, and we have three guys that we're like, oh, these are our guys. So anyway, and plus the Dolphins' schedule is really rough. They have to play. They played New England the first game. They played Buffalo a few weeks after that. They have to play the AFC North, which means Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. They have to play the NFC North, so Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago. So they got to play all of them. They play San Diego and San Francisco. Not San Diego, sorry. The Los Angeles Chargers and the San Francisco 49ers. They play New England and Buffalo on the road in December. So the whole thing, is my first instinct on them is to say, no, I think they'll have a good year and they'll figure out how to make the playoffs because they have to. That's why they did all this stuff. But to me, it doesn't take very long. There's not very many leaps you have to make to get to a world where this team's 2-6 and we're going, oh boy, this is bad. So I think the Dolphins I think they're either going to be good between 9 and 11 wins, or they're just going to be kind of bad.
No, I think there's a lot of daylight between being bad and being a playoff team. So I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. So I would probably say between 6 and 10 wins is kind of the area there, and then a lot of it depends on how they start the season. If they start, because they won 8 games in a row last year, they're not doing that 2 years in a row. Okay, so if they get behind the 8 ball early in the season, then it's going to be pretty much a bad year. They may end up finishing 500, but
not the way this schedule lays out this year. I'm not into like, oh my God, the schedule tells you everything. Because there'll be some teams that are not as good, and there'll be some teams that are better than we think, but it's tough. It's not like you're playing a bunch of teams who are either in the playoffs or real close to it, and that's